Congressman Jamaal Bowman.
What am I looking at? Who am I looking at? All the cameras, okay. So we're not gonna do the whole one at a time speaking thing. Yeah, we're not gonna do the whole one at a time speaking thing. I wanted to bring my, soldiers, our soldiers in arms together in Congress, the people who are here fighting for progressive change longer than I was. I'm new. Rashida's a sophomore, and you sophomore too?
One more term.
One more term, right? Junior or whatever you call it. But yeah, so first of all, this is obviously a pivotal moment in our country's history. We haven't considered making this sort of investment in the American economy in 100 years since the New Deal. This time we're trying to do it right, as we know, by centering equity, by centering racial justice, by centering women's rights and women empowerment, and by taking care of our seniors and most vulnerable. So for us, that's common sense. That's what you're supposed to do. We're supposed to govern from the perspective of humanity. But unfortunately, that's not always the case in Congress. And it seems like, speaking for myself, I just get deflated and frustrated because we always seem to govern from the perspective of scarcity and from the perspective of winners and losers. And so often those losers are black and brown. So often those losers are women. Those losers are Muslim. Those losers are people with disability. Those losers are seniors. And we're just tired of this scarcity, winner and loser narrative. We can do so much more as a nation. We have a moral responsibility to do more as a nation. And we have, we've shed so much blood for 245 years as a nation, and before that as a colony, with bombs and missiles and guns and all for profit, all for capital. And what we're saying is we could be better than that, and we could do more than that. And in my district, it's the rich and the poor, and not even the rich. It's the freaking super wealthy. Like these white men taking trips out of space, and people can't pay their rents and getting evicted and sleeping in cars. This is what's happening, and I'm not okay with that. Especially, so it's wealthy and poor, right? And it's abject poverty. And on the abject poverty side, they're black and they're brown and they're single women. And what's happening to the young men? They're getting killed and they're killing each other because they've been living with despair and stress and trauma and living with things that no human should be required to live with. And we've allowed this to happen as a policy decision. Certain lives don't matter as much as others. And this is every day. And when we talk about climate, Hurricane Ida just destroyed part of my district. 8 people dead. 2 beloved college professors were driving in what they thought was a rainstorm. It turned into a flash flood. They could not get away from their car. They drowned together. 2 husband and wife college professors from Iona College in my district, both in their 70s. Probably had decades to live. This storm came and took them out. We're not even prepared for what's happening now. This investment is a chance to rebuild our world rooted in care. Care for each other, care for this country, care for the world, and care for the environment. And it's life or death because people are dying every day, whether it's heat stroke, forest fire, flooding, whatever. And if they're not dying, they're losing everything. And we're just leaving them there to suffer. And the best some of my colleagues have to say is, well, I don't want to create an entitlement country. I don't want to create a socialist country. Except for billionaires, right? The last thing I'll say is this. If we really cared, China, or we got to do this because of China and competition and China. I know China must be like, damn, why y'all sweating me? Damn, y'all scared of me like that? I thought the white man was superior. Y'all scared of Chinese people like that? I bet you that's what they're thinking. But if we really cared about competition and defeating China and being and living the ideals of our country, if we really cared about that, we would invest equitably in every single person in our country, because that would make the economy more powerful than we can imagine, if that's your thing. My thing is less that and more, how about we just take care of people and make sure that their well-being is where it needs to be so they could live healthy, happy, free lives and be their true selves, whatever that self may be. So yeah, I'll pass the mic to Mr. Khanna. I love you, man. Let me just say this, man. Like, I'm so blessed that Ro and Rashida did it before me, because watching them from afar gave me a blueprint on how to get to Congress and then be in Congress. I watched them to learn. And Rashida is the biggest badass in the universe. And I'm just so humbled by them. So thank you for letting me just be down with y'all, yo.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's give Jamaal Bowman. You know, first of all, let me thank all of you, folks from Sunrise, for being out here. Your voice is being heard. You've made a huge, huge difference. Let's give the Sunrise Movement and everyone who's out there a round of applause. Now, here's how I look at it. You know, they say, well, why aren't you just voting for this bipartisan deal? No one asked me my opinion when that whole bipartisan deal was being negotiated.
That's right.
Did they ask your opinion on that deal? Did you get consulted on the deal? You know, so I don't understand when they talk about bipartisan deal, who are they actually talking to? Because here's the problem. It wasn't just hurt feelings, we didn't get a say in the bill. Here's what they did. They said, okay, we're going to invest in the traditional economy. We're going to have more roads, we're going to have more bridges, we're going to have more highways. Okay, we need more highways and bridges, but that's going to mean more CO2 emission, more traditional cars. And what did we say? Well, if you're going to do that, let's have some electric buses. No, they cut that out of the bill. The bill actually requires not to have electric buses. Well, let's have some electric vehicles and infrastructure. No, that's not going to be part of the bill. Well, let's at least have a clean energy standard. No, that's not part of the bill. So what we said is, okay, if you're really going to not take our opinion and not put any climate change in the bill, then we have to make sure, if we're going to actually vote for this bill that's inadequate, that we have a separate bill that actually addresses climate. This seems to be a perfectly reasonable position, already a compromising position. If they wanted an infrastructure bill only, they should have had progressives in the first place craft that infrastructure bill. And we could have done infrastructure without linkage. It would have been an infrastructure bill that looked at the climate crisis. But they can't come to progressives saying, vote for our stuff, but we don't want your input. They can't come to progressives and say, we expect you to get in line, but we don't want to listen to what you have to say. It's not going to work. And, you know, this is actually Biden's agenda. It's the agenda of 210 members of the House of Representatives and 48 senators. There are a few folks who are not on board. There are a lot of industries who are not on board. There's a lot of money that's not on board. So don't let people confuse you to think that there's some kind of ideological fight for the soul of the Democratic Party. The fight has been won. The people are clearly on one side. The party is on one side. On the other side are corporate interests, are greed, are the status quo special interests. They don't need to be reasoned with. They need to be defeated. And that is what we're going to do. And we're strong with Bowman, Rashida Tlaib, with me, with our great progressive chair, Pramila Jayapal, and we're unified, and we're going to make sure that the entire president's agenda passes. With that, let me end it. Rashida Tlaib is amazing in many ways, but I love her most for her leadership as the vice chair. We're partners on this environment subcommittee and holding polluters accountable. And she's such a great friend. We worked together on Bernie's campaign. And with that, Representative Tlaib.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, JP, we totally took your, I know you were moderating, but we wanted to do this together.
Bad.
No, I just want you to see that we're united.
Yeah.
And we're all in this together. And so I want to thank every single movement organization that is here. When I say movement, it's because it's not, staff. It's like a membership of people behind every single organization that is out there. I wanted to be with all of you because for so long you've been giving credibility for folks in my district, in the 13th district, which is the third poorest congressional district in the country. You talk about frontline communities, it's like my district. I want the human suffering to stop. And the human suffering stops when we invest in people. And I can't tell you how hard it is for me to go into schools throughout my district where their water fountains are shut down because they're infested, completely contaminated with lead. We got to get the lead out of the water. And the $3.5 trillion gets us closer to that, and that was already our compromise. And I got to reiterate that, and it's important. We went from $6 trillion to $3.5 trillion. We worked together. Not in closed doors, but together in trying to get to the dollar amounts to address the fact that we need clean drinking water, that we need clean air, that we need to make sure that we're not only taking care of the infrastructure outside of the home, but also inside of the home, the families that live in these homes. And so just know that we're with you, all of you, in demanding accountability of our own government. And government's supposed to be about people. And the $3.5 trillion gets us closer to that. Don't believe the gaslighting, the misleading information out there about what this is about. It is about ending human suffering. When you look at a district like mine, again, Michigan, we lost more black home ownership than any other state in the country. We also, because housing is infrastructure, we also, honestly, if you look at the folks that died of COVID at a high rate, it's my black neighbors. Even though 40% of my black neighbors died of COVID, even though they make up less than 14% of the total population in Michigan. That tells you the systems and the structures in place are not going to end the human suffering, especially in communities that look like mine. And so I stand here in unity with all of you. Thank you for being out here. I know it's going to be really difficult, but know this, there are people at home that can't be here. You're here for all the millions of people in my district and all around the country that want us to do more. And so I just want everyone to know, believe the people, not the pundits out there, not all those folks, because let me tell you, the majority of my colleagues are an income bracket that is completely disconnected with the hurt on the ground. And the folks here know that. And I gotta tell you, this is how we are able to transform our country, is through folks on the streets, on the ground, demanding it. And so I stand here in unity with all of you, and I know we're gonna be able to succeed again in getting that $3.5 trillion passed so we can change people's lives for the better.
That is absolutely right. And I mean, that's well said. We're like staying here until this piece of legislation that can begin, and let me be clear, begin, because it's not an end-all be-all, begin the transformation that we have needed for so long to finally deliver on the needs of regular working people. Until that piece of legislation goes through both the House and the Senate,
That's right.
We will be right here. And so if you're at home watching or from wherever you're watching, we are standing with you in our hearts, but you can also come and join us to make sure that this 3.5 budget gets through both chambers and makes our lives a little better. And we keep fighting until we do so. Thank you so much for being here.
Seal the deal!
I want to bring up to our people stage on the People Watch, Representative Mondaire Jones.
Oh my goodness, it feels so good to be here with the young people who are leading the charge to ensure that we have a livable future here in the United States and globally. I can't help but be reminded of the fact that less than 2 months ago, we were out on those Capitol steps, and I see many of you here who were there back then, to get an eviction moratorium reinstated. And now we're here once again calling on people like myself, members of Congress, to do the right thing and to simply pass the boldest agenda of any president in a generation, to ensure that we get climate action, to ensure that we get universal child care, to ensure, just like explicitly direct me so I can know where. So you want me over here? Yes. I wish somebody Let me do this again. It was less than 2 months ago that we stood nearby on those Capitol steps to make sure that as many as 11 million people were not forced out onto the streets into homelessness. We got that eviction moratorium reinstated through our activism. And now we are here rallying the halls of Congress yet again to rise to the occasion, to use the power that the people have vested in us to make sure that we stop the climate crisis. And we know that we can do that while creating hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of green jobs in the process. And by the way, we need to get that civilian climate corps become a reality. We know that we can expand Medicare and lower the age of Medicare eligibility and get us closer to Medicare for all, the only truly universal health care program imaginable. That is what we are fighting for here today. We know that we can get a truly universal child care program. And I'm so proud that we are on the cusp of doing precisely that. We can invest in a historic way in quality, affordable housing. We can do all of these things and ensure that everyone in the richest nation in the history of the world can live in dignity, and that not just ourselves, but our children and their children have a livable future. If we just pass the Build Back Better Act, that is what we are called here to do today. And that is what, with the help of grassroots activists, like everyone behind me, we will do this week, because we know that we have the American people on our side. So I'm so pleased to be here with you. Thanks for getting us to this point. And let's keep fighting, because people are listening. The American people understand that we need all of these things. These things are broadly popular. These things, in fact, get this, have bipartisan support among the American people. And we know that we need a pathway to citizenship for the millions of undocumented people in this country, our friends, our neighbors, our loved ones. And that starts, of course, with a pathway to citizenship for our dreamers. For our dreamers. We have to get all of this and more in that reconciliation bill passed this week on the House floor. And that is what I believe we will do if we keep fighting for it. Thank you so much for being out here today. It makes a world of difference. And let's win this fight.
That's right. We have a historic opportunity to deliver good jobs, save ourselves from the mounds of crisis that have been thrust upon us, and also champion a more humane society in which we care for our neighbors, families, and friends. Now, I want to bring up to the stage someone from a group, from a movement-allied group, who has fought for exactly that. I want to welcome you.
Thank you. Hello everyone, Karina Ruiz, She Her Saya, DACA recipient, undocumented, unstoppable, unafraid, and here to stay! Let me tell you, I represent those dreamers out there that are in their homes, in their jobs right now, that are attending school. My story is one of many stories. My parents, the first time they migrated, was from Oaxaca to Mexico City. Migration is natural because the climate, they couldn't grow their crops in their little town in Oaxaca, and they had to migrate. This is getting worse. Now I have grandchildren, and I worry about the planet that I will leave for them, that we will leave for them. We must take action now so that our future generations have a chance. And we know that those migration patterns are going to change. And with that, the migration of people is going to be heavier. Let me tell you that this Congress right here, I come from Phoenix, Arizona. From Estado de Mexico, my parents migrated in 1999 alongside myself when I was 15 years old. Because of that, I was eligible for DACA. I am one of those privileged young people that can have a driver's license and that can have some sort of protection from deportation, even though it's not 100%. But I cannot do things like voting. One day I want to vote. I want to be able to have representation and participate in that process so that my life and the decisions that are made about my life and the life of my community are also taken in account. Our Senator, Kirsten Sinema, and our Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona right now have the power to represent the people in Arizona, which have said loud and clear that we want to make sure that this Build Back Better plan from President Biden, which is a progressive plan that includes relief for people like me. It's not a perfect plan. They're still discussing about immigration, but we want to make sure that some sort of pathway to citizenship is included in this plan. We want to make sure that they deliver on their promise. This was a promise to our people. Let me tell you that my dad passed away last year from COVID. He was waiting on that promise for over 2 decades. He was waiting to see and hug his grandchildren. He had to say bye and farewell to his mother over the cold screen of a phone. I keep that phone even though it doesn't work anymore, as a reminder that my fight is the fight that is worth fighting. That I have to hold accountable these people that work in these buildings to stop the pain in our communities of family separation. My mother survived COVID, and she doesn't have to repeat that story. And that could be done if this Congress do their job before the end of the year. So this is the message that we bring from Arizona, and I want everyone to repeat after me. Congress,
Congress,
do your job!
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 What do we want?
Citizenship!
When do we want it?
Now!
When do we want?
Citizenship!
When do we want it?
Now!
Thank you.
Do your job! 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 Do your job!
All right, it is September, I think it's September 28th, and it is far too long into this year to not have bold investments in our communities, right? And that's why we need to pass a $3.5 trillion reconciliation package. Still waiting on some more people to join us. And I'm going to lead us in a chant that I think we all really feel on the inside. This is a repeat after me. Are you ready? Woo! All right. I believe.
I believe.
I believe that.
I believe that.
I believe that.
I just want to give one more big round of applause for Karina, please. Right now, in this decade, our struggles are more united than ever. We know how much the pandemic has put into perspective, where a couple of people, a handful of people, saw their wealth soar while everyone else struggled and failed to rebuild, and we built an economy where the currency was death. Right now we have an opportunity to create and construct and rebuild a new economy that works for all of us. And in it, we not only build a more humane economy, but a more sustainable one as well. And one of the people who has been long leading the fight for such an economy has been Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. And I want to take a second to welcome her.
This is the camera we want you looking into. You want to be in the middle.
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
We just announced you. Right there.
Okay. All right. You want me to go stand
Right,
here?
right over here.
Okay.
Right here, Congresswoman. Facing that camera. Thank you so much.
I don't want to have my back to the people, so I'm sorry, guys. You're not going to get me to do that, okay? I'm not going to have my back to the people, so I respect your shot. I'm not gonna have my back to the people, although I do want to say thank you for having our backs. We can be more emboldened, more full-throated in our advocacy and holding the line, and the need for us to move a bold reconciliation package. And in fact, I don't even think we should be using that verbiage. That means nothing to everyone who calls this country home, who's experiencing unprecedented hardship. They just need to know that we're holding the line for childcare, for paid leave, for home and community-based services for the disabled and the elderly, for climate resilience, which is not, the climate crisis is certainly a threat to our livability. It's an existential threat, but it is choking at people literally every day. It's why we don't have clean water and air to breathe. My district has some of the highest asthma rates in the country. So make sure people understand, the stakes. But again, I thank you for giving a damn. I thank you for giving a damn about your neighbor, about our communities. I thank you for having our backs. You have no idea how much you are each a source of strength and inspiration to us. I know that there are many movement partners represented here, so I thank you for being our siblings in the work of justice. I thank you for being agitators and activists and disruptors and justice seekers, because this is a fight worth taking on. And what does it mean for this multi-generational, multiracial movement to have delivered a decisive Democratic majority to the House, the Senate, and the White House, and a decisive mandate, and for us to not act accordingly? This is about, the power of the most marginalized who mobilized, a movement of Black, Brown, AAPI, Indigenous, young, disabled, queer, every walk of life, the most marginalized mobilized, and they met the moment so that democracy could breathe another day. So in this moment, we are not organizing for benevolence, we are organizing for reciprocity. This is a moment that we've organized for, we have mobilized for, we have voted for. For those of you that don't have an affiliation to any of the movement partners that are here today, I would argue that your greatest affiliation is that you are a member of the human family and you recognize that our freedoms and our destinies are tied. And so for that, I thank you. In this moment, while you're holding the line, this is the ultimate demonstration of collective care, of mutual aid. This movement and movements like it, led by young people like you, have led every transformative social movement in history.
So thank you for honoring that history. I know people like to tell you in history books that the civil rights movement is over, but you are the freedom riders of today. And we are still very much in the civil rights movement. And so I want to thank you for being those freedom riders, those justice seekers, for laboring in love, because ultimately that's what this is all about, radical love. So I'm proud to be your sibling, your big sister in this movement. And again, I thank all of you. And I'll just end here and say, you know, I grew up in an organizing household. My mother, may she rest in peace and power, was a tenants' rights activist, a community organizer, a proud Democrat, a super voter. And she just taught me early on that the power of the people has always been greater than the people in power. And that might seem like a contradiction, since technically I am in a seat of power, but I'd like to think that I've earned that humbling honor because I know where the real power lies, and it's with all of you, the people. So keep organizing, keep fighting, keep holding the line, keep demonstrating radical love. I appreciate you all so very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna turn my back to you now so that we can take a picture. Okay, so if you want to give me your camera.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can fit everybody. Oh, you're so tiny. Can you get it? Okay. All right, let's see. I'm not gonna we got no phone. Okay. All right, I can't get everybody, but we're gonna try.
I got the iPhone 12 though.
No, normally everyone in the back. They're connected.
Nice.
Yay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, I want to extend a big thank you, and I want to give another round of applause to all of the speakers who joined us today. I know I have said this a million times, but every time I say it, I want its power to grow. We are here to stay. We are here to stay until a $3.5 trillion investment in our communities goes past the House and the Senate. We are here to stay until our promises are kept and delivered. We are here to stay for as long as it takes to make sure that the mandate that we elected all these people on is a mandate that is fulfilled and is a mandate that helps us lead better lives. We are the People's Watch. We will be here. We are fighting for you. You can come join us. We are delighted to have you here. Thank you so much, everyone.